past week, Governor Newsom announced the formation of an economic task force on business and jobs recovery to be chaired by former presidential candidate and billionaire Tom Steyer and made up of business leaders such as Disney's Bob Iger, Apple's Tim Cook, and LA Times owner Patrick Soon-Shiong. Union leaders such as Art Pulaski of the California Labor Fed are also on board, as are 4 previous governors: Jerry Brown, Pete Wilson, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and Gray Davis, who started in Sacramento as Jerry Brown's chief of staff in the 1970s, served in the state assembly as the state controller, the lieutenant governor, and then the 37th governor of the state of California. Former Governor Gray Davis joins us from West Los Angeles. Governor Davis, thank you for taking the time. Nice to see you.
My pleasure, Conan.
What specifically have you been told about this committee, which is massive, 93 members, and its goals?
Well, it's going to break up into various committees to give the governor real-time advice with an emphasis on restarting the economy as soon as it's safe and making sure it can get off to a good start. I mean, we've already lost all the jobs that we benefited from since the Great Recession. So we're going to need to start the third and fourth quarter with a bang.
So the work will be done at the subcommittee level, one looking at tourism, the other at retail.
Exactly.
What is your...
And we also had some time with the governor, just the 4 governors and the governor, just sharing our advice, how we dealt with emergencies. And I made the point that an emergency can not only deal with the immediate problem, but it can help people 10, 15 years down the road. So during the energy crisis, one of the many things we discovered was our plants were really old. Like the newest plant had been online for 45 years, some as long as 70. So after the lights went out for a couple of days, I signed an executive order. We licensed and built 32 power plants. They are still sustaining the electrical grid today. So that helped in the short term, providing more capacity, and it's helping today.
Well, the governor was wise to ask for counsel from those who came before him. How do you assess the job he has done thus far?
I give him on a 0 to 10, I give him like a 20. I mean, I think he's brought people from the scientific community, the hospitals, people who understand contagious diseases. He's reached out to elected officials, business people. I mean, I think he's done everything humanly possible to get on top of 2 problems, each one of which dwarfed anything the previous 3 governors had, the public health issue and reigniting the economy. So he'll have the benefit of a lot of good ideas, and I think not unimportantly, Conan, a consensus behind those ideas consisting of the task force.
One suggestion that has already been raised by the leader of the Building and Trades Construction Union was to eliminate or streamline the California Environmental Quality Act, which can hold up projects for years because of lawsuits and appeals. Do you see that as a possible example of what this commission might recommend?
Absolutely, because housing has led us out of all but one recession in the 20th and 21st century. And so if housing is going to give us a jump start, you don't want to have to wait 18 months or 2 years before you can start building anything. You want to build, the next instant. So we have to figure out some accommodations through the use of the governor's emergency powers or through an act of the legislature that allow the economy to start with a real bang in the third and fourth quarter to give people hope that things are going to get better.
LA Times columnist George Skelton said the committee's usefulness will depend on the practicality of their solutions, no pie-in-the-sky fantasies, and whether the governor listens. Do you agree with that opinion?
I agree with George. He's a source of good advice on numerous occasions. But I do think we ought to be willing to think big. For example, why can't the governor come up with his own X Prize, maybe $250 million or $500 million for the California company that comes up with a vaccine that's first approved by the FDA? If it's some other state, fine, God bless them, we'll use it out here. But we have the best university systems in the world, 10 UC campuses, Stanford, Caltech, USC. Just marshal those resources. And this is a time to go big, because this is a big public health problem, and it's a big economic problem. So we can't just attack this problem with business as usual solutions. We have to have practical solutions, but we have to think big to get on top of this problem and to restart the economy.
One thing we have now that they didn't have in 1918 during the first pandemic is the tech sector. Do you see tech as being instrumental in finding our way out of this?
We have some of the smartest people in the world right here in California. We have more research universities than any other state by far. Massachusetts has 7. We have 13. We have tremendous resources. I mean, just the Zoom technology we're using here is a relatively new technology. So technology is really going to be important. But again, I have to believe that there has to be a sense of urgency on the part of all citizens and a sense of urgency on the part of government leaders to make sure we are marshaling all the resources we have in this state so we get on top of this problem sooner rather than later.
Former Governor Gray Davis, always a pleasure. Thank you and stay well.
Thank you, Conan. You as well.
Up next, we take a look at that pandemic 102 years ago and the differences between how San Francisco responded to it and Los Angeles and the consequences. That when we return.